Welcome to Hannity. And tonight, growing concerns in the media mob over Joe Biden's physical and mental fitness. Is the media about to turn on Joe Biden? We'll know for sure when and if they ever cover his involvement in Hunter's foreign business dealings, actually Joe's foreign business dealings. Now, NBC News, the latest left-wing outlet, now sounding the alarm over the president's deteriorating condition. Also, the king of late night, Greg Gutfeld, will react. He'll be on the program tonight, straight ahead, and we'll bring you a developing story out of Martha's Vineyard tonight, where the body of a chef employed by former President Barack Obama recovered in shallow water after he went missing while paddleboarding near the Obama's $12 million seaside estate that didn't have any room for the immigrants that were kicked off the island in less than 24 hours. All those details coming up. But first, tonight's top story. It is a hard reality for Democrats and the media mob. Joe Biden might be the very most corrupt president in the history of this country. But this isn't just about Joe and credible bribery allegations against him. This scandal now extends to the highest levels of the FBI and the DOJ, where unelected government bureaucrats took extreme measures to protect the whole Biden syndicate, the whole family, all while making and taking equally extreme measures simultaneously to destroy all things Trump and Donald Trump. Now, for those on the left who are just tuning in, here is an important lesson. We're going to call it Joe Biden's bribery allegations for left-wing dummies. Let's begin with some breaking news. Hunter Biden's former longtime business partner, Devon Archer, he is set to testify before Congress 1 week from tonight. That is next Monday. And according to the New York Post, Miranda Devine, well, Devon Archer has damning new evidence and information against the big guy himself. Apparently, we'll learn from him that Joe Biden not only knew about all of Hunter's sketchy foreign business deals, but acted as a sort of closer or sweetener to these foreign transactions that benefited the family in terms of millions and millions of dollars. And we're now learning that Archer reportedly witnessed multiple phone conversations between Joe Biden and his foreign business partners. Quote, Hunter Biden would dial in his father, then Vice President Joe Biden on speakerphone into meetings with overseas business partners. Archer allegedly witnessed more than 24 of these conversations, including calls with top Burisma executives. Remember, a credible FBI source last week in that 1023 document accused both Joe and Hunter Biden of accepting $5 million bribes from Burisma. Technically, he said $5 million for each Biden that Burisma execs did not want to pay. They thought Hunter was stupid. They thought his dog was smarter, but also had to do so, they felt, because Hunter, quote, would protect us through his dad from all kinds of problems. And one of those problems was a Ukrainian prosecutor. His name was Viktor Shokin, investigating Burisma and Hunter for corruption. And wouldn't you know it, as vice president, Joe Biden leveraged $1 billion of your tax dollars to get the prosecutor fired in 6 hours. Then he bragged about all of it on tape. Take a look.
I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a got fired.
Oh, it's one hell of a coincidence, right? The very prosecutor investigating Burisma Holdings was forced out by Joe in 6 hours, and his son Hunter continued to get paid money for which he had no experience. This is the same company involved in the bribery allegations against Biden, the same company paying his son millions to sit on that board. Hunter goes on Good Morning America, a crackhead at the time, had no experience at all whatsoever. He told us in his own words. Take a look.
There's been a lot of misinformation about me, not about my dad. Nobody buys that, but it buys this idea that I was unqualified to be on the board.
What were your qualifications to be on the board of Burisma?
Well, I was vice chairman of the board of Amtrak for 5 years. I was the chairman of the board of the UN World Food Program. I was a lawyer for Boies Schiller Flexner, one of the most prestigious law firms in the world.
You didn't have any extensive knowledge about natural gas or Ukraine itself, though?
No, but I think that I had as much knowledge as anybody else that was on the board, if not more.
In the list that you gave me of the reasons why you're on that board, you did not list the fact that you were the son of the vice president.
Yeah, no.
What role do you think that played?
I think that it is impossible for me to be on any of the boards that I just mentioned without saying that I'm the son of the Vice President of the United States.
If your last name wasn't Biden, do you think you would have been asked to be on the board of Burisma?
I don't know. I don't know. Probably not. I don't think that there's a lot of things that would have happened in my life that if my last name wasn't Biden.
That's why we're calling this Joe Biden bribery allegations for dummies, like dummies in the media and dummy Democrats in the Washington swamp. We now know what they were paying for. At the very least, according to Archer, they had a direct line to the Vice President of the United States, thanks to Hunter, the guy that was in charge of Ukrainian policy, and even $1 billion of our taxpayer dollars. We saw a similar situation with Hunter's business partners from China. Look at that threatening WhatsApp message to Hunter's Chinese associates. Quote, "I am sitting here with my father and would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled." Hunter continued, "I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. And I'm sitting here waiting for the call with my father." A few days later, magically, Hunter was wired nearly $5 million. Now the White House claims that Hunter was addicted to drugs and making empty threats, and that Joe had nothing to do with it and was most likely not sitting next to Hunter. But around the same time, Hunter was pictured at his father's house driving Joe's infamous family Corvette, you know, where those documents were, one of 4 places where they were, with no raid at all. Now, the big guy himself, pictured with many of Hunter's business partners there, including Devin Archer, and here they are golfing together. So it's pretty unusual, to say the least, that Joe Biden swore over and over again that he had no knowledge at all whatsoever of Biden's business deals. Again, I'm reminding everybody, because this is the Joe Biden bribery scandal allegation for dummies. So I'm putting it all together simply for you. Take a look.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period. And what I will do is the same thing we did in our administration. There will be an absolute wall between personal and private and the government.
Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business dealings with him?
Yes, I stand by that statement.
Joe Biden was lying. He lied repeatedly. And right on cue, his press secretary still refuses to give any direct and honest answer to any questions about the big guy's involvement in his family's foreign business schemes. Take a look.
Curious if the White House and the president still stand behind his comment that he's never been involved and has never even spoken to his son about his business.
So I've been asked this question a million times. The answer is not going to change. The answer remains the same. The president was never in business with his son.
Now, there is now a mountain of evidence, and it's building more and more every day. It's taken time because people have been reluctant and resistant. It's been hard to get suspicious activity reports. It was hard to get a hold of the FD 1023 form, and to know that the President of the United States could be very well up to his eyeballs in corrupt money-making schemes with some of our biggest adversaries and geopolitical foes should frighten every American. There are photographs, there are eyewitness accounts, there are tax records, bank records, suspicious activity reports, shell corporations, texts, emails, serious allegations filed with the FBI, and damning concerns raised by career IRS investigators who came forward as whistleblowers because they were stymied again and again and again by their leadership. In other words, the Bidens were being protected, the FBI and the IRS.
His false tax return for 2018 a false tax return that includes improper deductions for prostitutes, sex clubs, and his adult children's tuition.
In November of 2022, the statute of limitations was set to expire for the 2014 and 2015 charges in D.C., which included the 2014 felonies for the attempt to evade or defeat tax and fraud or false statement regarding bereavement income earned by Hunter Biden in those years. The statute of limitations had been extended through a tolling agreement with Hunter Biden's defense counsel, and they were willing to extend it past November 2022. Weiss allowed those to expire. But United States Attorney Weiss told us that he was not the deciding person, that he had requested and was denied special authority after D.C. declined charges, and that if California declines, he will have to request special authorities again. I understood the gravity of those admissions.
Based on what I experienced, that the U.S. Attorney in Delaware in our investigation was constantly hamstrung, limited, and marginalized by DOJ officials as well as other U.S. attorneys. I still think that a special counsel is necessary for this investigation.
And after a 5-year investigation, the DOJ only managed to charge Hunter with 2 minor misdemeanor tax violations while letting the clock run out on more serious charges, which, by the way, this guy, the prosecutor Weiss's office, said had signed off on felony tax charges, as far as we know anyway. There has never been a serious bribery, FARA tax investigation into Joe, the big guy, Hunter. Why weren't they charged with FARA violations in the case of Hunter Biden? The federal government is preparing to throw the book at all things Donald Trump every second of every day. Keep in mind, Joe Biden might well be a crook, but he won't be in office forever. I'd be surprised if he makes it to Election Day without another catastrophic fall. But the unelected bureaucrats, sadly, at the politicized, weaponized FBI, DOJ, will be around indefinitely. And for the better part of a decade, they have been throwing cinder blocks now on the scales of justice, now on our elections. This is abuse of power. It is rotting our republic from within, and it will only continue to get worse unless Republicans take the action needed with serious reform, personnel decisions all across the entire federal government. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.